with me, my friends, as I tell you a story, a story that ended in the year 1870. I'll give you what details I know. Unfortunately, there's a great deal that we don't know, but I'm going to present you the story of a man, and I want you to judge. Is he a villain, like some of the people claim he is? Is he a hero, or is he something in between? I want you to decide, and I want you to tell me in the comments below while we discuss the very short life of State Senator John W.C. All right, I'm going to give you the details of the case that everybody agrees on. Both sides agree on it, okay? Now, the person in this matter is John Walter Stevens, and he was born in Bruce's Crossing, North Carolina, which is close to modern day Summerfield, North Carolina, which is just outside of the Greensboro area. You can find it kind of on the line of the Guilford and Forsyth County lines right there. So that is where State Senator Stevens was born. And he was born to two Methodist family, husband and wife. His father was a tailor and a fairly successful one at that. He was a Freemason himself and did all right. I mean, he was not by any stretch of the imagination upper class, but he was of the working class and was doing fairly all right until he died suddenly when Stevens was 8 years old. And his mother, his sister, and himself were moved to Leakesville, North Carolina, which is right next to modern day Eden, or it's sort of like in between Greensboro and Danville, Virginia. Yeah, that's the best way. I mean, it's really closer to Danville, Virginia, but it's right there on the line. Anyway, he lived there until he was able to get a job and start working, and he became a very active Methodist, and was a tobacco trader for most of the time up until the war. Now, everybody can agree up to the war what happens. Um, Mr. Stevens is fairly successful, has one wife. He met in Wentworth and they had a daughter. Unfortunately, the first wife died fairly soon after giving birth. But Mr. Stevens was not single for too long, for he married again and had another daughter. And this time he was doing pretty well and was worked as an impressment agent for the Confederacy when the Civil War broke out. He did object to going to war, so he found other ways to try to stay off the front lines up until, well, the Confederacy was losing terribly and they had no other choice. What we can all agree with is that he came back a very, very, very different man. He left neither truly convicted to one way or another. All right, so Mr. Stevens, in this point in our story, he is not yet a state senator. He has just gotten back from the war, and he is moved and angry about the death and destruction he saw. And he comes back a changed man. He blames the slave owning class for the war and all the death and destruction around it, and believes that they have no business getting back into government because he knows that once these people get in power, things ain't ever going to change. And so he starts working with Governor Holt. Now everybody's pretty distrustful of him because he comes back such a converted man. Because before, he wasn't really for the war, but he wasn't really against it either. But now he was adamant that it was the plantation class that was the problem, and he came back converted, and he worked as a freedmen's agent and actually built community with the newly freed people there, and started working with them with the Republican League, and they were doing great stuff. Uh, up until they weren't. And these former traitors obviously had not learned their place.
Now, wait just a second here before we start painting the whole world with these rose colored lenses you have on. Why don't we discuss how he got the name Chicken?
Opposing counsel over here doesn't want to use his little nickname. Y'all want to hear his nickname? Oh, it's good. Let me tell you the story behind it, too. Now, he is known around these parts as Chicken Stevens. Yeah, that's right. Now, it ain't 'cause he's a chicken. He ain't no coward. Quite the opposite. Big old temper, big old mouth, can't keep it shut. And anyway, one day during the war, his next door neighbor's chickens accidentally creeped on over to his yard. He gets so angry that they would let their chickens come onto his property. Why, he shot them so much as looked at them. And they were dead. He brought them over to the lady of the house to show her those poor corpses and said, "You want these? They were over in my yard and I killed them." She refused it. he ate him and stole him. Ain't that just something? And then the next day, law enforcement shows up, takes him away for it. They release him. The next day, he goes to his next door neighbor. Do you think he goes to apologize? Nah. Say, sorry, I lost my temper. I might have been a bit drunk. Nah. Goes over there, starts fighting when another man tries to interrupt, shoots them both. I mean, not dead. I mean, he at least showed some couth. Barely. The man was an ignorant fool.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay. Hearsay.
Wait, honey doll, honey baby, wait. Yes, okay. The name Chicken Stevens. The name Chicken Stevens comes from the fact that, yes, it is believed that two of his neighbor's chickens wandered on over to his yard. We believe that he mistook them for his own hens and accidentally killed him, despite what the opposing team says, and that he went to hand it to the wife of his neighbor, and his neighbor's wife didn't want it, and so he wasn't going to let two good hens go to waste, so he ate them. And that's his big sin, was he didn't want to let food go to waste. Now did he again shoot his neighbor and shoot somebody who tried to? Yes, he's not always been the most level-headed of men, but dying at 36 years old, he really didn't get a chance to mature fully, I don't think. They wouldn't allow that to happen. Which is a damn shame, because man, what could have been?
Your Honor, I'd also like to bring up this fact that he was a good businessman or even a good man. You see, rumor has it the way he got the money to make his business was he waited until his mama and his sister were out of town of Leaksville, and he sold that house right out from underneath them. Not too long after that, his mama winds up dead. Now you tell me that ain't a coincidence.
And to rebut about this, about what she's saying about selling his house while his mom and sister, that is not the case at all. His mama was moving with him. His mama was known to have epilepsy. She died after an epileptic fit in an unfortunate location that caused a lot of damage. There are several eyewitness accounts. Most of them, yes, are freed people, so I know how you feel about their quality of input, but nevertheless, they said that they did not see Mr. Stevens anywhere near there at the time. So it was just unfortunate. All right? Speculation, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Stevens was able to be elected to the state Senate as a Republican representative from Coswell County thanks to his work at the Freedmen's Bureau for as long as it was open until President Johnson turned off the money to keep it funded and to help the newly freed people. Also, his work with the Union League. He also tried to preach nonviolence and no retaliation, even though these former Confederates were doing a lot of damage and murdering people. And it's hard to keep the peace when you are just trying to live and you are met with murdersome violence.
Now, what's even crazier about all this is he was a fairly moderate Republican. He didn't really push for any sort of crazy legislation to go through the state Senate House. I mean, as far as somebody who is my particular persuasion, I'd want to change everything and take a sledgehammer to it, but he seems not to want to have done that, which leads me to believe that it was the slave owning class, the ones that would form the later on, that wanted to make sure that this poor white man and newly freed people alliance comes to an end as quickly and as bloodily as possible, because that is sure enough what happened.
My word, my word. Hear her tell it? The man was about to earn his angel wings. But that ain't how I tell that side of the story. Let me let you.
Mr. Stevens is nothing but a scallywag. Oh, that is a Southerner who went and turned Republican as an opportunistic way to get above his betters, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's all Mr. Stevens was. He has so much as admitted it to his doctor. His doctor confided in the church that he, only the reason he was becoming even a state senator was they were offering him $4,000 to win that election. Otherwise, you couldn't have paid Mr. I mean, that's the only way. If you want Mr. Stevens to do something, you have to pay to play. That's just how every politician is. See, he was just using it to rise above. That's all. And he got kicked out of the church for it. Not because he was supporting freed people having the vote and whatnot. I mean, and held none. But nah, he was just doing it all for the money and the power. No better than us anyway.
Now, movies, history, the media will have you believe that we ain't nothing but heartless people in our little social club, but that is not the case. State Senator Stevens was given a fair trial by our particular group. Now, the charges against him was he had taught those freed people how to attack us and use military tactics. They were burning our property, our buildings, as well as our cash crop. And when we caught the culprits, they so much as told us, under some suggested physical influence, that it was Mr. Stevens who planned this all along. Now, we aren't heartless. We had a trial. Of course, he wasn't there for it, but he did have a fair trial held by the Klan, and we found him guilty. And what happened next is just simply the execution of that particular judgment.
Now, Mr. Stevens won't no fool. He had started already going around carrying 3 weapons on him at all times and took out a life insurance policy on himself. Pretty interesting for a 36-year-old man. I guess he must have heard how the trial went. So one of us came up with a way to get him out of that house and that metal cage he was living in. We'd use the ex-sheriff, Sheriff Wiley. He was about 6'5". Good candidate for sheriff. But Stevens didn't know that he was one of our members. And he convinced Stevens that he was going to be a sheriff on the Republican ticket. He'd be coming talking pride. Little did he know that'd be the last time he'd enter a doorway. Save the final one. And we are remembered as heroes, not him, because we won the PR war. Mr. Stevens went to that courthouse, the Yanceyville courthouse, on that day to try to convince a friend to join the right party, to make a real change in the area. And he was betrayed by that friend, I'm sorry to say. And they cowardly stripped him of his weapons and killed him in their courthouse and threw away the key. Like cowards, they did not give him a chance to fight, to stand for himself, nothing. Just opened his throat and heart while he looked on his children. He may not have always acted a hero, but I think his final act was that of a hero. I only wish that later generations had done better by that memory. Yeah, everything else happens just the way she said. All except for ain't nobody mourned him. Well, maybe we did a little. But finally, the story was told after the last conspirator died, so he couldn't be brought to trial. We always end up back on top. Never forget that. So I didn't learn about State Senator Stevens until I was in college, taking my North Carolina history class, 1865 through present, and it's quite the eye-opening class. Um, I think Senator Stevens was a very complicated man, and unfortunately, because he was poor and from the working class, the merchant class, um, not too many people kept account of who he was beforehand. Nobody would have ever thought that his death would be what sparked a whole outbreak of the Kirk-Holden War in North Carolina. I feel like that part of our history isn't taught as well, at least in my experience, um, because it has such a profound impact. And I think it's part of the missing information when people don't understand how we went from slavery to Jim Crow, how the failure of Reconstruction actually happened, what details went into it. Um, I also think that State Senator Stevens, is an important reminder to everyone what being a representative is supposed to be. It's supposed to be somebody who puts their constituents above their own wants and needs sometimes and tries to do their best to get what their constituents are asking for. And swallowing our pride a little bit, maybe upsetting some apple carts, getting a little more aggressive with what's supposed to be our own party. We need to remember that this is supposed to be a role of courage. I'm not asking every state senator or my elected officials to have that level of dedication and courage, but if Senator Stevens could give his life, the least you could do is risk your job. My name is Kelly. I'm known as Historically ADHD, and thank you for watching.